Hello from Patina Meadow. I'm Brooke Gianetti.
I'm Steve.
And today we are actually sharing one of our clients' houses in our latest book, Patina Homes and Gardens. This one is called Seaside Villa, and it has quite a emotional story and one that I was really honored to be a part of.
Yes, we got a call when we were on a walk with the wife who was quite upset.
As
she should be, because her home had burned down. Not in a previous fire. They do happen occasionally.
In Malibu, yeah.
And just sort of asked if we would help her rebuild and help make something that was great for her and her family.
It was great because the idea of being able to guide her and her husband from this place of fear and loss to really walk them through their story and to imagine what could be from the ashes.
Yeah, because they wanted to make it better. They didn't want to just rebuild the old house. They wanted to make something much cooler and more interesting.
Exactly. So there was almost a silver lining to a very tragic situation.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is the Seaside Villa project.
So it's kind of got a bit of an Italianate feel. This is a stair tower here, and the entrance is through this arched opening. It had that sort of Italianate Spanish feel before, but we were trying to make it a little more interesting. So I made this cool little entry where you walk into the living room. You can actually see right through to the garden on the other side.
They also loved our previous house, Patina Farm. And so just like that home, we incorporated a lot of antique elements, like the antique French roof tiles.
Yeah, the stone veneer here. Mm-hmm. It had a lot of elements from Patina Farm just because they really liked it when they came and visited.
And then we did a really pretty kind of more Mediterranean-inspired garden too, with the citrus trees in the pots, and just kind of a very limited palette, and then some of these topiaries. This was just when the garden had been installed, so these are roses that were climbing up the wall.
Up the whole building now. It's really quite cool. So this is, again, the story. This is a little shot of their breakfast room, but when you walk into the front door, you get that view. So you have the little archway, and you walk in and you see this big archway. So that's the two-story living room space. Actually looks all the way out into the ocean here. That's the Pacific Ocean. And then there's a swimming pool and another little building that we put in the foreground. Here, that's a small pool house.
And it is quite a large space, quite a large two-story space. And I loved this mantle because it had enough kind of heft to kind of hold the space down. And it's also a lot more rustic than the rest of the elements in this space. For me, it's a beautiful kind of juxtaposition to these beautiful plaster walls.
It works like a smaller house. Basically, there's a living room, dining room, and then a kitchen that you'll see over here, and the little breakfast rooms there. When it's just the two of them, everybody can see everything. It's really a nice layout.
I also love that, this house is in California, in Malibu, and so it does embrace that kind of indoor-outdoor lifestyle.
These doors completely open and pocket into the walls, so that the house and the garden really connect in a way that really big here because of the two-story space.
And when they're entertaining, the space becomes larger and becomes almost like a living room, indoor-outdoor living room, because we did all like a little seating area outside as well that kind of mirrors the one that's inside too. And
then to kind of bring the space into sort of a softer scale, we brought in, some large antiques. So this is, again, this fireplace you were just looking at, and there's a big antique piece that we brought in that kind of gave it that mid-level scale. But these were antique Swedish piece. This is our furniture line from before. This is a little detail of that, so you can kind of get a sense of what it feels like in the space, but it's all in that same kind of beautiful palette.
And the palette really is inspired by the outdoors, by the ocean, kind of blues and greens.
Soft blues and greens, and these velvets, and how everything kind of tied together. Even the books you picked were all kind of in the blues and green tones.
Yes, and a lot of textures, a lot of kind of velvets and linens to kind of soften the space because it was such a large kind of open.
Yeah, and then the ceiling in this space is wood, which you'll see later, so that warms it up a bit.
Well, this kind of tells the rest of the story too,
So here you're
right?
looking towards the front door. There's the fireplace we were just looking at, and the cabinets around the corner. But all this wood and stone here is the real warmth of this tall space.
And we found these great antiques, like these old doors that were actually in the same colors as all the furniture. And the other thing that I thought was really nice is that you enter the space, I'm sure you didn't think of this, that you enter the space in a kind of a lower space.
Yeah, that was the whole idea. You walk in low with the roof right under you. And it almost feels like a bridge shooting across, and this bridge is sort of hung from these beams. There was a Villa Reggio in Italy, where they used to take burned out Italian villas and then add this modern stuff in. So that was the idea for this, like this old stone wall. It's almost like a ruin that was left with these beautiful plaster walls tucked in. And then there's a little wine cellar over here, tucked under the stairs, and a very cool bar that we did, a hidden bar.
And I liked bringing in, the tree. It gave a sense of scale also to that larger space. There was also kind of a play on scale with kind of this large lantern. I think it was 5.5 feet tall.
Yeah, it was giant. They were wondering if it was too big, and we told them it was just right.
No, just right. Yes, 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 yes.
So here's a view from above with the doors open, so you can see how it connects into the garden. And again, there's Pacific Ocean out and their pool right here.
And we chose a gravel that is actually pretty much the same color as their wood floor, so it really did flow inside and outside.
When you're in the dining room looking towards the kitchen, there's the world's longest island. Part of it's marble here, and then part of it's wood. So it's like a farmhouse table kind of connected to an island.
But the change in materials also allowed it to not feel quite as long.
And then you can see into her art room and actually through some shelves into her art room, which was nice.
And they really like to cook. They are...
It's the sort of center of life.
Oh,
this is another view of the kitchen. Again, antique, and then refrigerators that kind of had the same kind of detailing as a little antique. I think I copied the little crown molding there.
But I love the little oval that you had right there because it did allow some more light into that.
And from the garage, it was this little spot we just chopped open. And then we made the little niche for the thing. That's the nice thing about doing the interior design at the same time we're doing the architecture. We know where everything's going to go. And then this is the breakfast room that looks out into that courtyard, which was kind of cool.
And this is that kind of continental height eating area that Steve always loves because he likes to lounge. I know you do.
That's what I do.
Yeah, you like to lounge.
Here's her studio, which has these super tall doors that go into a workshop area for her, a little workroom.
And a great pair of antique sconces. This was a really cool mirror that we found in England that has this...
Hand-painted, right?
Yes, it was hand-painted, had all these little flowers on them. It was so beautiful. And an old English lantern, so pretty.
In this one, we were trying to support her love of art. So she wanted a nice painting studio, but wanted it close to the house and wanted it to feel like a lovely room. So occasionally we'll use the steel windows, but this was just a big sheet of glass because it looked out onto the side yard. And so it just was a lovely place to sit. This is her little workroom, or like flower room, just right behind that fireplace. And then this is a little powder room right up by the front of the house, another one of these little ovals.
Yeah, it's so quirky because it's kind of off-center. The oval isn't in the middle, and I love that it's that quirky. I also, kind of adore how this mirror is kind of just a little bit too small, and it's very ornate. This is very kind of clean.
Yeah, it's modern. That was just like a little half circle carved out of a big slab of stone. And then this is all covered in botanicals on the left and right.
Just added some little garden details.
This is his office that I wanted to look like a old loft, like a Soho loft. So it's probably 50 feet long, but there's all these big beams and oak planks, so it feels like it's built out of solid oak. he's a musician, so piano over here and instruments and a whole bass collection, really cool stuff.
All the colors are sort of similar throughout the house, but they
get deeper.
Yeah, different intensities. And in this area, it was definitely a lot darker. And then the leather books added a lot of warmth, as well as all the beautiful old woods. And
there's a little outdoor garden here.
Side garden.
Yeah, side garden.
Every space became an outdoor room.
Yeah, so you're looking out towards the ocean this way, and then we did a greenhouse out in the backyard.
You're really good at having these different focal points of, when you're looking out a certain way, like this became a focal point. Of course, there was the ocean. That was always a really good focal point, but...
Here's a good example of that richer color, the blue, but really much more intensified here in his studio. And then he had this great old fireplace and these, like our favorite chairs with the little magazine rack.
And then we did another pair of old doors that we
doors.
found. Yeah, they were great. Oh, the upstairs, yes.
You know, you can get a sense of how tall that light is up there. That's what it really looks cool when you're right up on top of it.
I think it's pretty much the same height as I am.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And then a great pair of leather chairs. This was a little space that she felt like if they had some guests, if the guests didn't want to go downstairs to the kitchen, they could come up here and just have a little cup of coffee, or there was a refrigerator. Yeah, a little refrigerator.
It used to be an old porch. It's right above the front door. It's that wooden thing above the front door, so it's almost like a little porch that got closed in. That was the idea. And it actually has quite a cool view the other direction across the meadow out towards the ocean the other way.
Yeah, you'll see it next. And then another pair of old doors.
A lot of old doors in this one.
That's the other view.
Yeah, this is the view out towards the meadows on the other side.
Yeah,
so
and that yellow mustard field. So pretty.
These vaulted ceilings, all covered in plaster, that gave you the feeling of you were inside a seashell in this space. Because we wanted it to feel, the master bedroom to feel cozy and warm, but it was hanging out over the ocean. So there was this idea of having the amazing view as part of it. Here is the actual room. But to have the warmth of these curved ceilings. But again, they're looking right out at the Pacific Ocean, out that direction.
And then I always try to imagine what they'll be doing in all these spaces. The idea that she could be lounging right here and be reading a book and then just look up and enjoy the view. I mean, it's such a spectacular view.
Nice little seating areas by the fireplace.
Yeah, that's where they're hanging out at night.
Yes.
By the fire.
Is that what we're doing?
Yeah,
that's what they're doing?
That's what they're doing. They're there.
Okay, you've got them all imagined. Nice.
Yeah, no, it's got to be the story.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in more sort of sheets of glass here that kind of tie the inside to the outside.
What a great place to start and end your day, right?
Yeah, that was the master bath. Again, we did these very detailed cabinets here that were all brand new, but to look like old Swedish pieces. And then I did their closet, almost like a little library. It's all lined in oak with a vaulted ceiling and then curtains around the side.
And I always love the softness of the linen draperies in a closet, but I also love how they make the space feel so calm rather than just looking at, unless they're like you, who wears a uniform for the most part, and everything's the same color. To me, it's always nicer to have your clothes behind something like these linens so that it feels a little bit calmer.
Yeah, it was a really nice room. There was a big piece of furniture in there too. Mm-hmm. This is one of the guest rooms where one of them is a little more masculine. We found these great antique leather sofas and
a secretary, a Swedish secretary.
Yeah, we bought everything new for this house, right? Because there was nothing left.
There was nothing left.
And it had a very cool wall of wood that popped into a little the bathroom. This is another upstairs bedroom that had a little bit more feminine feel.
Talking about how everything was gone, so she did love Swedish antiques just like I do, and
she had a lot of them in the old house.
Yes. But the beauty of these, of bringing in the Swedish antiques, is there is a feeling of history.
Yeah, so it wasn't new. It felt like it was familiar to her. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. This is the back of the house, so you're looking back at the living room space with the doors wide open. The only thing that was really left on this house was a swimming pool. So we had to kind of line it all up on axis with the swimming pool and then basically build the new house within the shell of the old house. But the old house looked nothing like this. This is that little breakfast room. So there's some elements that are stone and then a lot of the plaster, and then that's the master bedroom up top.
It's a pretty big house, but the way the massing of the house makes it almost feel like little homes.
Yeah, it's like a little Italian hill town,
Yeah.
kind of rambling down the slope.
And then they planted all this lavender along the hillside too.
Yeah, it looks super cool. This is again with the doors closed, looking up from the pool. We did a little rivulet. There's a little fountain here that water flowed down between here and went into the pond. Here is the little fountain. And this is the little courtyard off the living room that we saw right in the beginning.
And that's his office right there with the great blue sofa.
Then you're looking back at the backyard, looking out from her office.
So what you always imagine this as kind of like part of the hill town, right?
Yeah, that's almost like a little ruin. We use tile for the vents. This is actually the pool equipment's back in here. And this is just a little pool bath and spa room.
See, even your pool equipment can be beautiful.
That was cool. And there's your little greenhouse space. And then here is the whole site plan. So you can see we walked in this way through the entry, living, dining, kitchen here. There's the little outdoor seating. The rivulet goes down to the pool. And then there's the greenhouse. So you see the whole deal.
Yeah. Well, that's our client Seaside Villa. That's the story of their home. I hope you enjoyed it. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to learn more about some of our clients' homes, they are in our book, Patina Homes and Gardens, which is available on our website, patinahomeandgarden.com. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.